Some things don't start with intention. Sometimes they start with silence, like the kind that fills a house after everyone's gone, when only the TV hums in the corner, waiting for someone to look up. That was the night it began. And if I'd left when I planned to, no one would have known. It was late Friday evening, the kind of suburban quiet that feels almost too still. Rain tapped against the living room windows, soft but steady, blurring the streetlights outside. I was at my best friend Noah's house, half watching a movie we'd started hours ago. He'd just gone out to meet his friends, saying he'd be back before midnight. That left me alone in the flickering blue light, the hum of the air conditioner, and the steady rhythm of rain. When I heard footsteps on the stairs, I assumed he'd forgotten something. But it wasn't Noah. It was Claire, his stepmom. She moved slowly, her bare feet silent on the wooden floor, a loose sweater hanging off one shoulder. Her hair was tied back, but a few strands had fallen forward, catching the light from the TV. She held a mug in one hand and looked surprised to see me still there. "I thought you went out with him," she said. I muted the TV. "He forgot his wallet. Said he'll be back soon." She nodded, stepping closer. "He always does that." A small smile. "Mind if I join you? It's too quiet upstairs." I hesitated. "Sure, I guess." She sat on the other end of the couch, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her side, but far enough that it could still pass as casual. The movie played again, meaningless dialogue filling the silence. The rain grew heavier. The smell of her tea, something floral with honey, mixed with the faint scent of rain through the open window. She laughed quietly at a scene on the screen, then glanced at me. "You still watch this kind of stuff?" "What kind of stuff?" "Old comedies. Noah can't stand them." "I guess I like familiar things." "Familiar is nice," she said softly. "Predictable." The pause that followed was longer than it should have been. I didn't move. Neither did she. Then her tone changed, gentle but deliberate. "Let's keep this between us, all right? Noah teases everyone. He'd never let you live it down if he found out I crashed your movie night." It was meant as a joke, but it didn't sound like one. The way she looked at me, steady, direct, made it sound like something else entirely. I nodded, trying to play along. "Yeah, our secret." "Good." She leaned back against the couch, taking a slow sip of tea. The rain outside covered everything. The ticking clock, the creaks in the ceiling, even my breathing. For a while, nothing happened. Just the low light, the quiet, the sense that time had slowed. Then thunder rolled, low and distant. The lights flickered for a second and came back on. Her hand was already on the remote. "You don't have to stay if it's boring," she said. "It's fine." "Really?" "Yeah." She smiled a little, not taking her eyes off me. "Most people find this part slow. Maybe I like slow." The words came out before I thought about them. She tilted her head slightly, amused, then looked back at the TV. But she wasn't really watching. Her focus had shifted. I could feel it, even if she didn't move. Footsteps suddenly echoed from upstairs. We both froze. The lights flickered again, and the sound stopped. Probably just the house settling or the pipes. Still, the tension stayed. Claire let out a quiet breath and shook her head, almost laughing at herself. "You see," she said, "you can't trust this house to stay quiet for long." "Does it bother you?" She thought for a moment. "Sometimes. Silence has a way of making you hear things you shouldn't." Her words hung between us. Neither of us looked away. Then, without breaking eye contact, she reached forward and pressed the remote. The movie froze mid-scene. The only sound left was the rain. "Let's take a break," she said. "I'll make more tea." I stood to help, but she raised a hand. "No, stay here. I'll bring it." She disappeared into the kitchen, light footsteps fading down the hall. I exhaled, realizing I'd been holding my breath. The TV screen glowed pale blue across the empty couch, reflecting in the window like another presence watching from outside. Then I heard her voice, faint but clear from the kitchen. "You can stay a little longer if you want. Just don't tell him." And right as she said it, another flash of lightning lit the room, followed by a heavy crack of thunder that shook the window frames. The rain didn't stop, neither did I. The next day unfolded like nothing had happened. Noah slept in late after his night out, and I spent most of the morning in the guest room, pretending to scroll my phone, replaying everything in my head. The rain had stopped, but the air still felt heavy, like it hadn't fully let go of the storm. Around mid-afternoon, I came downstairs looking for something to eat. Claire was in the kitchen, her back to me, hair tied up, sleeves rolled to her elbows as she sliced strawberries over a white ceramic bowl. "You hungry?" she asked without turning around. "Little bit." She reached for another knife. "Help me. He's still asleep. Might as well get something ready before he raids the fridge." I stepped beside her, hands awkward at first. The kitchen was warm, brighter than the living room, but quieter somehow. No TV, no music, just the click of the knife against the cutting board and the hum of the fridge. "You okay?" she asked casually. "Yeah." "Why?" She looked at me. "You seem quieter today." I shrugged. "Didn't sleep much." She smiled like she knew the real reason. "Must have been the storm." She passed me a berry to taste. Our fingers touched briefly. Nothing dramatic, but my stomach turned anyway. That evening, Noah left again. Some last-minute errand for his dad's business. He offered to take me with him, but I said I'd stay. Said I had a paper to finish. He gave me a thumbs up and pulled the door shut behind him. A few minutes later, Claire reappeared. She wasn't in pajamas this time. She wore a soft gray shirt tucked into fitted lounge pants, barefoot again. "You didn't go?" "Didn't feel like it." She smiled, tilted her head. "Then come on. I've got something better than that movie." I followed her to the den. Smaller than the living room, no windows, dim lighting. Felt more private. She settled onto the corner of the sectional, tucking one leg underneath herself, and patted the cushion next to her. "You like noir. Depends how dark it gets. Then you'll like this." She started the movie. Black and white, old-school crime drama. Shadows everywhere, voices low and urgent. The kind of film where every glance matters. As it played, the room darkened around us. At some point, she handed me a blanket, just one, and I didn't argue when we ended up sharing it. Our shoulders brushed now and then. Her foot shifted beneath the fabric and touched my ankle. She didn't move it. Somewhere around the halfway point, my phone buzzed. A message from Noah. "Be back around 10. Traffic sucks." I locked the screen quickly. Claire saw. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just him." Her voice dropped. "We've got time then." I looked at her. She didn't look away. The movie played on. One of the characters lit a match, the flame flaring briefly, then fading. Claire reached for something on the table. The remote. She paused the movie. Same as last night. But this time, she didn't say anything. The screen froze on the image of the lead actress. Shadowed face, parted lips. The room felt warmer, closer. Then the sound. Footsteps. Outside. We both turned. Through the small glass panel near the door, a shape passed. Just a neighbor walking a dog. But our bodies had already tensed, hearts already sped up. She let out a shaky breath. "This house keeps us nervous, doesn't it?" I nodded. "Feels like someone's always watching." She slowly reached for the wine glass on the table, her fingers brushing mine. Then she said, "You know, I don't usually let anyone in here. This room's kind of mine." I glanced around. "It suits you." She smiled faintly. "You mean quiet and hidden?" "No. Focused." We were close now. The blanket had slipped slightly, revealing more of her leg. Her arm rested behind me along the back cushion. My hand hovered near hers, the space between us thinning by the second. I leaned slightly forward. She didn't back away. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then to the stairs, then back to mine. And just when I thought the moment would tip, her phone rang, sharp, loud, breaking everything. We both flinched. She grabbed it quickly, looked at the screen, didn't answer. "Spam," she whispered. "Or maybe fate." I almost laughed. Same thing sometimes. We sat there in silence. The movie still paused, the air still heavy. Then she said, almost like a dare, "Tomorrow. He has that golf thing all afternoon." I said nothing, but I didn't move away. She pressed play. The movie resumed, but neither of us watched. By Sunday, the house had settled into a pattern, the kind that feels ordinary only on the surface. Noah came and went, busy with his father's errands, barely home long enough to notice the way the air changed when he entered. Claire moved as if nothing had shifted, polite, graceful, harmless. And me? I couldn't stop hearing the faint click of that remote every time she paused the world around us. That afternoon, Noah asked if I could stay until Monday, said his dad needed him out of town for the night. "You'll keep an eye on her, right?" he joked, tossing his keys on the counter. Claire looked up from her laptop and smiled. "I think I can manage." But her eyes met mine for a fraction longer than they should have. When Noah left, the sound of his car pulling away felt like a curtain closing. Evening came slow and orange. Claire suggested dinner, nothing fancy, just pasta and wine. We cooked together, shoulder to shoulder in the narrow kitchen. At one point our hands met reaching for the same spoon, and neither of us moved away immediately. "You ever feel like you're watching your life from somewhere outside it?" she asked suddenly. I looked at her. "Sometimes." She smiled faintly. "That's what this house feels like lately. Like it belongs to someone I don't recognize anymore." The timer beeped. The moment dissolved into the clatter of plates, the hiss of the stove. We ate in the dining room, lights dim, rain threatening again outside. She poured another glass and said, almost to herself, "You're quieter when he's gone. I guess I don't have to compete for the conversation." She laughed softly, but it came out closer to a sigh. After dinner, she said she wanted to show me something. An old film room, she called it. We went upstairs to a small den, lined with dusty DVDs and half-broken speakers. A single lamp lit the corner. "This used to be my space," she said, "before all the noise." We sat. She found a movie neither of us cared about and pressed play. The same click as always. The same sound that used to mean distance, now something else. A signal. Halfway through, she got up to refill her glass. I watched her reflection in the dark TV screen, her outline moving against the faint light. When she turned, she caught me watching. She didn't smile. She just looked. Then, a sound from downstairs. The jingle of keys. A door opening. Noah's voice. My body went cold. Claire froze, glass in hand. "He wasn't supposed to." "Go," I whispered. She grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the hallway. We slipped out of the den just as footsteps started up the stairs. She mouthed, "This way," guiding me down a narrow corridor into a small laundry room. The hum of the washer covered our breathing. Through the thin door, Noah's voice carried faintly. "Mom? You home?" She called back, steady, casual. "Upstairs. Just finishing something." He moved toward the den. The creak of the floorboards sounded like thunder. I stood inches from her, back against the dryer, heartbeat pounding. The wine glass still in her hand trembled. A single drop ran down the side and touched her thumb. We waited. 5 seconds. 10. Then his voice again, closer now. "Everything okay?" "Perfect," she said. Her tone never cracked. A pause. Then footsteps turning, heading downstairs again. Only when we heard the front door shut did she exhale. The glass left her hand and clinked softly onto the dryer. "That," she whispered, "was too close." Her face was inches from mine now, eyes wide, pulse visible at her neck. I didn't think. I just lifted my hand and brushed the hair back from her cheek. She didn't pull away. For a long moment, we stood there, the air thick and humming. Then she said it, quiet, certain. "You shouldn't make me feel like this." The words hung there, half warning, half confession. I swallowed. "Then tell me to stop." She didn't. Instead, she reached past me, picked up the remote she'd been holding earlier, the one she'd carried upstairs without thinking, and pressed it against my chest. "Every time I hit pause," she said, "I forget the world keeps going." Then, as if realizing what she'd said, she pulled her hand back, slipping the remote into her pocket. Silence again. She looked toward the window. Rain had started, faint but steady. "I'll leave the side door unlocked tomorrow," she said softly, "if you need to get out before he's up." Her eyes met mine one last time, that same flicker of something unspoken. And then she turned, leaving me in the half-dark laundry room, the scent of detergent and her perfume blending in the air. When I looked down, I noticed what she'd dropped on the dryer beside the glass. A small, folded note, damp from her hand. I opened it. 2 words, written in neat handwriting. "Come tomorrow." The next morning was different. Every sound in the house felt sharper. Every glance from Noah felt heavier. I kept waiting for him to say something, to ask why my bag was in a different place, or why his stepmom seemed distracted during breakfast. But he didn't. Still, the tension lived just beneath the surface. I couldn't focus. I barely ate. I left my phone on the counter, screen down, even when it buzzed. At one point, Claire passed behind me and brushed my shoulder with her hand. So brief it could have been accidental. It wasn't. Noah was supposed to be gone until late again. His dad had called him in for a full-day shift at the store. Around noon, he grabbed his keys and headed toward the garage. "You guys need anything before I go?" Claire shook her head. "We're good." He lingered for a second longer, then left. We listened in silence as his car pulled out of the driveway and turned the corner. She didn't say anything, just nodded slightly toward the hallway. We didn't go upstairs this time. Instead, she led me to the guest room, my room, and closed the door behind her. The room was quiet, washed in soft afternoon light filtering through the curtains. Her presence filled the space instantly. Not loud, not bold, just undeniable. She stood near the window, arms crossed loosely, as if unsure what to do next. "I didn't sleep last night," she said. "Me neither." She turned to face me. "This can't happen again." I nodded, but didn't speak. She looked down at her hands. "It's not just about Noah. It's about me. What this would say about me." I stepped closer. "What does it say?" She hesitated. "That I'm lonely. That I let someone too young see parts of me I should have kept hidden." "Is that how you see me?" She looked up, not blinking. "No, that's the problem." Silence pressed between us like a wall. Then I did something I hadn't planned. I walked over to the nightstand, grabbed my phone, and turned it off completely. She noticed. "You don't have to do that." "I know. I want to." She didn't smile, but something in her face softened. like relief mixed with guilt. We sat on the edge of the bed, not touching. She started talking. She told me about her marriage, how it had started strong and faded in pieces, how she'd lost herself in routines, schedules, school pickups, and dinners with people she didn't like. She said, "I didn't plan to feel anything for you, but here we are. I didn't move, just listened." Then she said it, "I filed for divorce 6 months ago. Noah doesn't know. His dad doesn't even realize I've already signed." That changed everything. The way she looked at me after that wasn't flirtation. It wasn't a game anymore. It was real. I reached for her hand. She let me. We sat like that, not saying much, until a knock shattered the quiet. Firm. Repeated. Someone at the front door. We froze. Claire stood, peered through the curtain. Her face went pale. "It's Miranda," she whispered. "Next door neighbor. She's always watching. What does she want?" "Anything. An excuse." The knock came again. More urgent this time. Claire slipped out of the room, adjusting her blouse. I waited, every second stretching too long. Through the thin wall, I could hear her voice. Bright, polite, rehearsed. Something about needing to borrow a baking dish. Small talk, laughter. Then Miranda said something that made the air in my lungs freeze. "I thought I saw someone in your upstairs guest room a few minutes ago. Your son's friend." A pause. Claire responded too quickly. "Oh yes, he's just packing up. Leaving this afternoon." I heard Miranda's voice drop. Must have been a late night. I saw lights on real late. Another pause. "Claire, you know how these boys are. Up all night watching nonsense." Footsteps. Silence. A door shutting. Claire returned to the room and closed the door behind her, leaning against it. "She knows," I said. "She suspects," she corrected. "But suspicion isn't proof. And I've been suspected of worse." We both stood there, breathing unevenly. "I should go," I said. Claire didn't argue, but just as I reached for my bag, she stepped forward and placed something in my hand. A folded receipt. On the back, in ink, was written, "Tuesday, 3 p.m. Same room. If you want to." I looked at her. She looked away. "I don't know what we're doing," she said, "but I don't want it to end like this." I left through the side door. The sun was already setting, and I knew I'd be back. Tuesday came quietly. The weather had turned colder, the sky overcast in that late afternoon way that makes everything feel suspended, like time's holding its breath. I arrived early. I didn't mean to, but I couldn't stay away. Claire had written 3 p.m. on the back of that receipt, but I was already outside the house at 2:30, sitting in my car a few houses down, pretending to scroll through my phone. My heart was louder than the engine. The neighborhood was still, curtains drawn, lawns empty, the kind of quiet that's almost too clean. At 2:58, the porch light flicked on. That was her signal. I waited 30 seconds, then crossed the street and slipped in through the side door. The house was warm. Cinnamon, maybe, or whatever candle she always used when she wanted things to feel soft. She was waiting in the upstairs den. Same room, same light. She stood when I entered but didn't smile. She just said, "You came." I almost didn't. I almost didn't ask. We sat on opposite sides of the couch, the same one where she first handed me the remote. The blanket was gone now. No distractions. For a long minute we said nothing. The silence didn't feel heavy this time. Felt honest. Then she said, "I told him I had an appointment. He didn't ask what kind." I nodded. "I told my roommate I was going to the gym." "Did you?" "No." She laughed. Quietly, like she was surprised by herself. Then she stood, walked to the window, pulled the curtain aside an inch and checked the street. Miranda's home, she said. She's always home. Does it matter? Claire turned back to me. Everything matters, but not all of it deserves control. She sat beside me, not too close, not teasing, just present, real. And then she said, "So what are we doing?" It wasn't flirtation. It was surrender. Could have made a joke. Could have leaned in. But instead, I told the truth. I don't know. I just know I don't want it to stop here. Her eyes searched mine. There was no calculation left in them. "I've spent so much time pretending nothing was missing," she said. "It worked until you stayed." The room seemed to close in, like it had been holding this conversation in its walls the whole time. She reached for my hand, and this time it wasn't a test. It was an answer. We sat that way for a while. No more stolen glances. No more paused movies. Just the sound of the world outside. Distant traffic. A bird. The faint creak of the house settling around us. And then, without words, we moved together. There was no hesitation left. No game. No guilt. Just gravity. Culmination. Later, we lay side by side in the quiet. No music. No TV. Just breath and warmth. "I don't know where this leads," she said. "Neither do I. But I want to find out." I turned toward her. "Then we keep going. Carefully." She nodded, eyes closed. And that was the choice. Not a promise. Not forever. But real. I walk past their house every Tuesday. Always just before 3 p.m. Sometimes I keep walking. Sometimes the porch light's already on. We don't text. We don't call. We don't make plans. But there's a new rhythm now, a quiet agreement. The den still holds the old DVDs. The couch hasn't moved. But the remote, it stays untouched on the table. She hasn't paused anything since. And I know if the light is on, she's waiting. If it's off, I don't knock. No words. No risk spoken aloud. Just one moment a week. One room. One look. And the sound of the door softly clicking shut behind me.